Hi again, this is Christy Marchese, and you're listening to Have You Seen My Film, a Kinema podcast. And today we talk to Lisa Trifone, who is the founder and CEO of Bright Iris Film Co. She is a publicist, a marketer, and a strategist, and Bright Iris provides guidance and expertise to filmmakers and storytellers who are ready to bring their work into the world. They do distribution, marketing, and publicity services, and recently launched a new program for filmmakers via a cohort experience to help you create and implement your own strategic release campaign. So we will dig into what she does as a publicist, what you can get from this cohort if you can join, what is happening in the world of PR and marketing, what has changed in the last few years, and how can you respond to that, as well as some things to avoid as a filmmaker, some myths about publicity, and some things you need to know if you are going to engage in any sort of publicity campaign for your film. So let's get into it. All right, I am here with Lisa Trifone. She is the founder and CEO of Bright Iris Film Co. She's an expert in marketing and PR, and we are chatting today about the work she's doing with filmmakers and a little bit about the broader industry. So hi, Lisa.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, so in your own words, what is Bright Iris Film Co.?
Yeah, so we are a full-service publicity and strategy agency for independent films, film festivals, studios, cinemas, anything in sort of the film space. We've probably worked with a version of that company. I say we because it's myself and a small team, which is exciting. And I think for independent filmmakers, we offer definitely full service. We represent films at festival premieres and at theatrical release and self-distribution. But then we're also building out our education side, I guess would be the best way to put it. Some resources and tools to help filmmakers understand what to do with your film once it's made.
I think I remember you chatting about this a few years ago. We met up in Chicago. You're Chicago based, right?
I am, yeah.
Okay, cool. It was, I think was it during IndieX, the Art House Convergence conference that was happening? I think you were kind of just getting these education materials off the ground. And I thought it was very cool how you were offering, yes, you've got the full service, hire you and your team to come in and do a bespoke strategy, but also there's different levels in which people can come in. And if you're self-distributing or have a limited budget, you can access these resources. And are those still on your website, or how does someone find those?
Yeah, absolutely. So the website is brightirisfilm.co. We are .co, we are Instagram, LinkedIn, all of the things as a boutique agency. So listen, every film has different needs. Every film has different goals. Every film has different budgets. So I recognize, where we live in the ecosystem, and there's the 42 Wests and the Cinetics and all these amazing colleagues that work on amazing films. There's also a world where there's films that have a need, but it might not rise to that level, if you will. So as a boutique agency, we can really offer, I don't have a rate card. I don't have packages. I have a conversation with every filmmaker that wants to hire us on to say, what are your needs? What's the scope that we can build for you? And then again, after that conversation or in the process of that conversation, sometimes it comes out that actually full service isn't what you need right now. And some of these individual resources, self-guided course, cohort, et cetera, might actually be a better fit for you right now. And that, I want that to be possible as well.
That makes sense. So I was going to ask you, specifically, what does it look like? So first, it starts with a conversation. So if a filmmaker is trying to get in touch with you, they go to your website, they shoot you an email, say, my film's coming out in theaters next week. Or I'm finishing my film.
Oh God, please don't do that. Give me a little more warning than 1 week.
Okay, fine. Don't call Lisa 1 week before your film releases. This sounds like you get on the phone, you talk a little bit of strategy, and kind of just help them navigate, and then you put together a plan. So, is this something if you're going to be working one-on-one, or they're engaging you and your team directly? Are you looking at doing a 3-month strategy, a 6-month strategy? Because what are some of the parameters filmmakers should know when they start to engage you and your team?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think it's a piece that so many emerging filmmakers, maybe first-time feature filmmakers, maybe just filmmakers with a film that's getting a little more attention than they expected, might not have worked with an agency like ours before. So happy to share some things to know. So the first would be plan ahead, both in budgeting and timeline, right? So if you think that you want to do a release with your film, whether that's in partnership with a distributor, with Kinema, et cetera, if you think that's going to happen, budget for and start researching promotional agencies that can start help in that way. Our client roster for full service clients usually fills up. We're running about 6 to 8 months in advance where our roster is full. So at this point, I'm talking to films that it's February when we're talking. May and beyond. So as far as duration, as far as all of those pieces, that really just depends on the film's release strategy. So I've worked on projects for 6 months where we really start from zero and we're helping craft press materials, we're helping craft messaging, doing a lot of early work. And maybe they've got a longer theatrical tour or they're doing something where their windows are a little bit longer. Some I've worked on for 8 to 10 weeks because everything is in place and we need to kind of plug in, hit the ground running and start talking about the film. But even that has been booked well enough in advance with us. So I would say the biggest part is to start early. I can go on from there. I don't know how in-depth you want to go as far as working with us.
No, that's helpful. I guess it depends on each film. And so it's, we get this question a lot. And I know it's really hard to give a single number, but I got to ask, like, what should filmmakers budget for? And I know you different tiers and offerings, but like, what should they budget early or at the stage or at production?
Yeah. So if you remember, maybe I saw this from you guys. Maybe I saw this from like the popcorn list. I feel like I saw somewhere recently, someone encapsulated it and said, again, this is maybe take it or leave it. Someone said 20% of your production budget should be your marketing budget, your promotional budget. And that feels like a good sort of ratio to say, okay, if we spent this much to make the film, we should want to spend or try to spend at least this much to cover promotions. But that said, again, it just like, you're going to need a different budget if you get into Sundance versus not. Those are different things. Really, any publicity agency, what I will say is you're looking at the several $1,000s a month kind of range, if you will. And that just depends, again, based on the scope of the release profile, the time that we would be investing, that can adjust for sure.
And you're also offering, I just saw an email about this. It's called the Unmissable Film Release Initiative. You get that? Intensive. Unmissable Film Release Campaign Intensive.
It's a mouthful. I've been just calling it Unmissable.
Unmissable. So basically, it's a 12-week cohort program. So how does that work? I think we're releasing this maybe in a couple weeks. So what can you tell us about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So probably when your audience is listening to this, we're in the process of kicking off the first cohort. So this really came out of, as you mentioned, we talked a couple of years ago, I've been thinking through what are some resources that we can provide. I've been doing this for 20 years. And one of the things that remains constant is I start working with these filmmakers or I get contacted by filmmakers that just don't know how it works. And it being how to promote your film, how to connect with journalists, how to get media attention, how to find the right audience to engage with your film. So over the course of a couple of years, I've been building out different resources. And then at the top of 2026, I decided to go for it. And so what we're doing is a guided 12-week cohort. It'll be limited seats, a small group of filmmakers, shorts, features, documentary, narrative, that'll meet 6 times in 12 weeks, online community component, access to the digital course with all the templates, resources, et cetera. But essentially a guided conversation, a guided build through a promotional strategy, and not just publicity, which is what journalists are saying about you, but what should your social media plans look like? What should your email marketing look like? What does grassroots outreach really mean? The kind of both high concept, these are the definitions, this is what we mean, this is what we're talking about, as well as this is how it applies to your film specifically. So the goal would be at the end of the 12 weeks, you've got both a plan for what to do with your film and skills that you can use in every film going forward.
Which sounds fantastic and a very cool program. And I'm glad you brought up social media because I feel like there's been a massive shift in how marketing and publicity has worked and has changed. We no longer have like centralized information sharing. We don't all tune into the same news show or morning show. We're turning into our social media feeds, which are customized for us by algorithms. So how do you even approach trying to reach audiences when we're completely fractured and getting different information from different sources? How would you help filmmakers navigate that?
Yeah, I think you have found this same thing in finding audiences and talking to filmmakers. The only thing that I have found to work in the last 5-10 years is specificity. It's really, really, really niching down. To your point, the monolithic culture, the shared moment, unless you're Bad Bunny at the Super Bowl, like it's just not.
Which was fabulous.
It's not happening. Which was fabulous.
It was a great shared moment.
But that's the exception, right? That's really what we've got left as a culture these days. So the success, especially for independent films that don't have the resources to sort of spray and pray, or maybe aren't even looking for the Marvel audiences or whatever. They have a very specific goal in mind with who they want to reach. It's about specificity, and that goes across whether it's, again, publicity and earned media, your social media, and your influencers, finding a path to engage with the center of that bullseye, the start of who really is going to engage with this film. We can always expand from there, but like, step 1 is setting your goals. Step 1A is defining your audience. And I know immediately that there's going to have to be conversations if the filmmakers are saying, well, we want movie lovers to see our film. We want indie film fans to see our film. Listen, I love you and I appreciate that, but that is not an audience.
It's also can be an expensive audience. At least we found when you're trying to reach those audiences, not through organic, but through paid. Like it's a wide audience. And so you're competing with other people. You're competing with big streaming platforms.
Correct.
And bigger A24 budgets to reach that same audience. And so what I'm hearing is it's also based off of your time and resources and budget. The more specific you get, you'll be more on the mark, but also it's going to be the best use of your time and dollars. Is that correct?
Exactly. That return on investment, to use the phrase, you're more likely to connect with that specific audience. And listen, then those people become your amplifiers and they start telling more people and they start telling more people. And certainly in, our client work, and something that I want to share with the cohort and the filmmakers who join me is we always cast a wide net. I'm not saying that we're not reaching out to the majors, and doing the pitching, because I will be the first one to say, you never know who's going to say yes. You might be surprised. There might be a connection, that you don't expect. So it's always worth the pitch. But I think for the results, to really start the results, to mix my metaphors, start that snowball down the mountain, like it's starting very, very specific.
We say that too. We're like, we're not saying everyone, when people say my audience is everyone, we're not saying everyone won't love your film, or like indie filmmakers aren't going to love your film. You're just trying to find the most economic way to reach those super fans first so they can help carry your message.
Exactly.
So what are the common myths? Are there common myths you're seeing in press and publicity? Like, I need to get on the Today Show. Or like, what are some myths that you think people in the film community have about publicity and PR, or what you do?
I mean, there's probably a couple. One would be that you can't afford it, right? Like, chances are there's some version of publicity support helping connect you to journalists that you can afford. It might take some research. It might take some conversation. I don't know, maybe you truly can't afford it, but I would say don't like cut yourself off at the knees, without investigating. Again, in like the boutique space, we can be flexible.
Oh, no worries. You have a lot of education resources on your site too. I've also been following your social media. You share a lot of information in your videos, and that's for free. So I think if people are
that's for free.
Yeah, if it's $0, like you can spend your time as a consumer of what you're putting out.
And that's the other piece. So the myth of like, I have to hire this big agency, or I have to listen, I don't want to talk myself out of a job. And we do have a really robust, and I love our client work, and I don't ever want that to go away. But I think you and I are wired the same. Like, there's always a hustle. There's always wanting to do more and serve more and offer more. And so this educational aspect and reaching these filmmakers that just might not be at that point in their career yet, or again, the film might not warrant it yet. Our socials, these education tools, it's really designed to like help unlock that black box of like, what is this? What can it do for me? What should my reasonable expectations be when engaging with? And also, what are the skills that I can learn so that either I can start implementing this to some degree, and or I can work better with the professionals when I do hire them on.
Oh, makes sense. And so I guess you've covered some of this, but what else do you wish filmmakers knew about publicity and PR in general, or before they get started?
Oh, man. I mean, I think it goes, we can zoom out beyond even PR. I think it goes for PR, but also all of the promotion. Like, you can't start too soon. And in fact, you probably need to start sooner than you think. I get so many filmmakers who are well-meaning, but who reach out. I mean, certainly filmmakers who reach out, like you said, 1 week before their film is releasing, or once their film has released. Like, unfortunately, that's just not how the editorial calendar, like, we need time to get this on people's radar and line things up. I'm already pitching films that are releasing in April. Like, it's a timeline thing. But I also think, that there is a path forward. I love this saying, like, every film has an audience. It's just a matter of like finding yours. So getting really honest and realistic about what the response to the film is going to be, like what the engagement might be like, and letting the professionals contribute to, if you're engaging us, contribute to that happening versus kind of like, I don't know, getting in your own way.
That's totally fair. Can you give, sometimes it helps to give like, tactical examples as people are listening to, whoops, I bumped the mic. As people are listening to imagine in their head and kind of figure out as you tell a story or case study, relate to their film. So do you have any recent examples of campaigns that went really well, whether you ran it or you saw a filmmaker run it with some of your education materials?
Yes, absolutely. There are examples. I'll go back to last year. I had the pleasure of working with one of the selections for the Popcorn List, a film called To Kill a Wolf. I'll give them a shout out. They were so great to work with. Not only were they so prepared, they had so much sorted on the distribution side of how they wanted to do their theatrical, when the dates were, et cetera. They were so receptive to our input about how to layer in strategies like premiering a clip or interview placement or things like that, that made sense for their release strategy. So, the goal of publicity is to get that journalistic exposure at a time that makes sense. It doesn't make sense to maybe get a film review if there's nowhere anyone can see your film. So they're very receptive to that. And then our strategy was really, again, to get specific. So to lean into, it was female filmmaker. It was very much a sense of place. We were able to get a lot of local television, local print, local online in the Pacific Northwest where the film was based and shot. So just getting very, very specific about those conversations. They had an impact partner on. It dealt with some heavier issue. Like it just was a perfect storm of strategy, meeting expectations, meeting implementation. Like they just did a really, really great job of building that team and implementing that project.
All right. You kind of alluded to this, which is materials. And so I think oftentimes when we see films that get uploaded to Kinema, we have a limited number of stills that get uploaded. And when someone uploads their film, they can upload promotional materials, additional images. And for us, that we can pull from that so that we can promote through our channels, through our social, and through our email. And unfortunately, if there's just less for us to work with, it makes it harder for us to kind of differentiate that film from other films or do multiple posts for that film because we just have such a limited number of assets. So I'm curious, like when you are working with a filmmaker, are you finding that they're coming with a bunch of assets, a cut trailer, clips, stills, or are you working with them to have to go back and pull some of that? And in either way, like what is an asset kit that filmmakers should have?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm going to sound a little bit like a broken record and just start by saying it depends. Every filmmaker comes differently. And a big part of that is, again, there's film school and you can learn the technical how to make a film. There's very few like formalized processes to learn what the industry standards are for releasing and promoting your film. That sort of comes through exposure and experience, which is one of the reasons I'm trying to do these things and help these filmmakers understand. So yes, there's absolutely a need for a press kit, a Dropbox, Google Drive, something folder where those assets are. There's a lot of different approaches to this. So initially, when a film is new, let's say it's making its festival premiere, a common strategy is to actually only have one still available. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is that it builds awareness and consistency. So anywhere you're seeing information about that film, like think about the most recent Sundance titles, Josephine, The Invite, et cetera. It's a single image that you're seeing in all the coverage of those Sundance titles so that immediately you can say, oh, that's The Invite. Oh, that's Josephine. And then as your campaign progresses, you can start building out more of that content. You can start adding in stills. You can start, especially these days, micro clips for social, for reels, things like that. You definitely want a press notes document that includes your official synopsis, your filmmaker statement. You really want to think about your press notes as like your Bible for anybody who needs to be talking about the film. Correct spellings of names, titles, roles, metadata, runtime, et cetera. All of these kinds of things. You want a press note. And then contact information. Make sure that you make it easy for someone who either wants to talk about your film or exhibit, show your film, give them a way to get in touch with you.
Wow. Okay, perfect. Good. We had a running list. I have two more questions for you. Hey, are there any big trends happening in PR, in marketing, in just news and information sharing that are either impacting the work that you do and making it more challenging, or in some ways like helping or making it easier for you to help share information about films?
Sure. It's a great question. I think it's maybe a little bit of both. It's two sides of the same coin, but really the graying, the blending, the blurring of the boundary between like what is earned media and what is marketing. So by that, I mean, what is journalists and outlets talking about you and what is it that you are sharing on your own behalf? And the biggest place where this comes into play, and I talk about this all the time in early conversations with filmmakers, I always get the question like, what about influencers? What about people who are out online creating content? How do you work with them? And, you could ask 6 publicists, you might get 6 different answers. But I think generally speaking, most of us will talk about it in a way where we will engage and we will collaborate, but it really comes down to like the editorial nature. So the example I give is like a podcast, a Substack. Those people are also often super popular on TikTok. So we're working with them to like set up an interview, and then portions of that interview go out on TikTok and become shareable, right? Or we might have, those kind of conversations. But like a brand collaboration, on the other hand, having Sunday Scaries do a post about your film release, like that's marketing. That's a brand partnership. That's not an earned media space. So it's sometimes a case-by-case basis. So it's both a huge help because now we've got all these new audiences and all these new creators who we can talk to and we can share, which really helps to make up for, as you mentioned at the top of the conversation, that loss of like the majors and the single destination. So that's wonderful. And our lists are always growing. Our contacts are always growing. But the challenge becomes like, what's that gray area and who's handling what and who needs to know what in their outreach? So
no, that makes sense. It's like the amount you used to have to manage just a few contacts, and now you have to manage a lot of contacts, which is, again, you're right, two sides of the same coin. Like, great, there are more people talking about those specific or reaching those specific audiences or talking about those topics. Also a lot to manage just overall.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else we didn't cover about the work you're doing at Bright Iris? Things you think filmmakers should know about PR and marketing or the industry at large?
Oh my goodness. I mean, you and I could talk about this for forever. I think I would just make sure to sort of reiterate / make sure we touch on setting goals. Like I realize that this is like a really big topic and it can be really broad, but I really think it's so important for filmmakers at some point. You're driven by the art, you're driven by the story to make this film. And you've got to be, the project's biggest champion. And it's not going to get made unless you believe in the story. Absolutely. At a certain point, once that film's made or right before, and you're thinking about how to get it out in the world, I cannot stress enough how important it is to have some semblance of goals of what you want to see happen with the film release. What we know is films have a shelf life. And in 12, 18, 24, 36 months, that film is going to kind of have lived its cycle and sort of go into a space of, catalog or sort of, annual, always a valid watch, but not the new film anymore. And so what do you want out of that time frame, that very specific time frame? What are you aiming for? And the filmmakers who can answer that question are always the ones that are most successful in the implementation.
Ooh, that is really good advice. We talk about that a lot. Be specific about your goals. Oftentimes we'll be like, here's your 4 options. Pick one of these options.
Yeah.
Is it like, do you need to make money back? Do you want to make impact? Are you building a career? Do you want to find audience? Like, pick one. And we usually have filmmakers going, I have 2. And we're like, that's great, but pick one for now. And that's actually a great framing of in that 12 to 36 months, pick one. And then you can move on to the other one.
And I think about it sometimes as like a table or stool or something. Each of those are legs and they all matter, but you're going to have to lead with one because that's going to start driving. That's going to influence how we approach it. That's going to influence how your funders, like all of the things. Those others can happen. They can be a part of it, sometimes tangentially or, what have you. But you've got to lead with one to start driving the train, as it were.
Lisa Trifone of Bright Iris Film Co. Where can people find you or Bright Iris online?
Amazing. It's Bright Iris Film Co. on Instagram, on Facebook. I think I'm still on Facebook. I know I'm on the Instagram and LinkedIn, also on LinkedIn. If you're interested, I'm Lisa Bisa on Instagram as well. I do the company posting. So yeah, thank you so much for this chat.
No, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and to just being so active in this space. So, and it's always nice to see you. I'll take any excuse.
Nice to see you too. And that's our episode. Thank you to our special guest, our producer and editor, Ron Pissarro, and you, the filmmakers, creators, marketers, and distributors that are dedicated to connecting audiences with great films.